What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at the Kingsman, the prequel movie to the first two Kingsman movies, directed by Matthew Vaughn. Let's waste no time. Let's get right into it. Overall, I thought this was a very solid movie. I enjoyed the Kingsman. I don't think it's as good as the first movie, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. I like the whole idea of this movie being a prequel and being set against the backdrop of World War One. And I appreciate how Matthew Vaughn tried to tie in his story into the events of World War One. I think in a lot of areas it can come across as maybe a little bit too contrived, a little bit too janky. But for the most part, Matthew Vaughn tried to make it make sense by having this shepherd character be this conspirator and the man and the puppet master pulling the strings behind World War One. You know, coming in, having joined forces with guys like Rasputin and people like that, and pulling the strings of all these nations in order to take down Britain. I thought that was, decently done. I thought that Matthew Good, who played the shepherd, did a really good job at playing this mysterious, shadowy villain. I do kind of like the ending and how it's revealed that it was another character that the shepherd character was actually undercover as the British mole. I thought that was actually pretty clever and pretty well done. And I like Matthew Good all throughout this movie. Even though he's mostly kept in shadow, his performance came across as menacing, but had a slight dark comical side to it, which fits in with the tone of the Kingsman movies. The Kingsman movies always had like this darkly comedic feel and tone to it, and a lot of their scenes and stuff like that. And I thought the shepherd character as the puppet master was nice. It was well done. In terms of all the other actors, and this movie's really anchored by Ray Fiennes and as the character for Orlando, who was the man who creates the Kingsman organization. I thought Ray Fiennes as the character of Orlando was really, really good. He's pretty much the best part of this entire movie. And it's saying a lot because he's backed by a very good supporting cast, but their characters are not as, well developed as the character of Orlando. Ray Fiennes has a commanding on-screen presence. He's great in this movie. One could almost say that he is too good to be in this movie. And I have to agree with that. Like, this movie could have had much better writing, but Ray Fiennes takes the material that he has to work with, and he does the best he can, and he puts a lot of weight and gravitas to a lot of scenes. I particularly like a lot of the scenes between him and his son Conrad, and the love between those two, but there's also a bit of a resentment between those two because in the opening prologue, Orlando's wife gets killed, and his young son sees it. And of course, this, and of course, the last thing his wife tells him was to protect his son and not have him see the horrors of the world. We flash forward 10 years later, and like I said, World War One is on the horizon, and the son wants to go to war, much to his father's chagrin. And Orlando does whatever he can to keep Conrad away from that. He does not want him to see that experience. But in Conrad's mind, he'd already saw his mother get killed at a young age. So to him, it doesn't really make a difference. I mean, eventually, Conrad ends up going into the war, though he uses a fake name by swapping places with the character called Archie Reed and a cameo by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And you have the whole no man's land scene in this movie, which was very good in a lot of ways, yet it kind of creates like a tonal shift in this movie because the entire sequence that we get to see of Conrad in World War One makes you feel like you're watching an entirely different movie. Like it's almost as if you're watching Saving Private Ryan in a way. Like the movie gets way too dark. And the movie itself is not really a dark movie per se. I mean, it does have some dark undertones to it, but it's not an overall dark movie. But the whole thing of Conrad in World War One is where the movie has like this, kind of almost campy tone to it, and then it goes into a completely different direction where it feels like you're watching something totally different. And then the way Conrad is killed is just kind of gruesome. Like, he saves this wounded soldier's life. He gets accused of being a German spy, and then he gets shot in the head. And it's just really surreal. It's just really that surreal. It comes from out of nowhere, and it gets way too dark. Now, I understand, like, the first two Kingsman movies, they have over-the-top violence. But that's the thing. The violence in those two movies are very over-the-top and are almost played for laughs. This is different. This is not played for laughs. This is played for shock and awe. And it kind of comes into conflict with the overall, fun tone that the Kingsman franchise has to begin with. And that's my biggest gripe with this movie, is that it does have a very bad tonal conflict. Like, there's scenes in this movie where it's just like, pompous fun, and a good example of that is where I think the guy's name is Sholo in the movie, played by Dimon Horsu, who is in a lot of movies. He works very closely with Conrad and Oxford. They have like this four-way fight with Rasputin, which is a very entertaining scene, very, very well done. It's very reminiscent of the church scene from the first movie, almost beat for beat in a way, by having the music in the background and the action being very over the top. And Rhys Ifrans, who plays Rasputin, I thought was one of the best part. Well, I thought was a great and fun performance, and I wish they didn't kill him off as early as they did, because I kind of liked him as Rasputin. Like, I thought it was a lot of fun, and the whole action sequence was a lot of fun. But again, you have something like this scene, which is very consistent with the Kingsman franchise, being very over the top and very, very like fun in a way. And then you have No Man's Land stuff and Conrad and WW1, and that dark tone conflicts with the overall over the top satirical tone, kind of like butt heads a little bit. So you don't know what to kind of make of it in a way. Like, the whole No Man's Land stuff could have worked in a different movie. It does not work in this movie, my opinion. I don't hate the scene. I actually like it, but I don't like it in this movie. That's a big gripe that I have. And I would not have and having the Conrad character get killed off, I do like that though. I just wish he didn't die the way he died in this movie, which is very, very graphic. And not graphic, but very, very dark. And just shock and awe. But I do like how the death breaks Oxford, but I do like how it also builds him up again. And this is where we steamroll to the end of the movie, where he discovers the shepherd being Morton. They have a nice fight scene, and all's well with the world. So, that is what it is. It leads to something decent. I mean, I think the fight scene between Morton and Oxford could have gone a little longer. And I do like the whole subplot of the U.S. Trying to avoid the war. But it's revealed that it's only happening because Woodrow Wilson is being blackmailed by the shepherd by having this film footage. So, that was pretty cool. That was decent enough too. And I do like how Matthew Vaughn's able to tie in his story to real life events. Like, we get to see the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. We get to see Vladimir Lenin, who a man who took over Russia after the Tsar was killed and his family were killed. Speaking of which, we get to see Rasputin kind of toy with the Tsar and his family, Tsar Nicholas and his family. So I thought that was good stuff. I like how Matthew Vaughn was able to integrate those real world events into the movie, into the screenplay, and kind of help mold his story and the story that he was telling. Like I said, in some areas he did it really well. In some areas it can come across as a little janky. I think the Shepherd's overall plot is one of those plots where all the pieces need to fall together in order for it to work, and it can get very convoluted and kind of confusing at the same time as well. But overall, I thought The Kingsman was a very solid movie. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. I recommend it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.